DNA tests cannot determine race, ethnicity, or what tribe you come from. These tests only show you the ancestry you inherited from the last 3 or 4 generations. Please bear in mind that these tests take data from people living today, like now in modern times. These tests do not collect data from the actual original or indigenous people of these lands. So let's bear in mind that DNA mutates a lot by changing out one base pair for another. And these markers are especially prone to being mutated and passed on due to a complicated DNA repair, genomic and evolutionary mechanisms. So just because you might have one marker that looks like one found in France, for example, that does not mean you are French at all, since it is entirely possible and perhaps likely that you or an ancestor experienced a mutation that gave you a French-like version of that marker. This is why sets of twins or siblings can have completely different results. There's also other factors such as this.
No one is or ever was 100% anything. You might have a grandfather who lived in Ireland, but he was not 100% Irish. He had ancestors before him, and they weren't all from Ireland. Humans have moved around a lot throughout the course of history. You could be Jewish as far back as your family knows, but you're still bound to have some non-Jewish DNA from some ancestors. You could have a French last name and only be 15% French. Because here's the thing most people who take a DNA test don't understand. Genetics is not the same as genealogy. Your DNA doesn't care about modern country borders or last names. Remember these little guys? Let's pretend for a second that your dad is half Nigerian, half Italian. And let's pretend your mother is half Russian, half Vietnamese. If you assume that means your ancestry breakdown would look like this, I understand where you're coming from, but it's very unlikely. Here's what actually happens. Remember when I showed you how you get 23 chromosomes from each of your parents? When this happens, you need to remember that you only get half of your dad's DNA and half of your mum's DNA. Which half you get is totally random. If we go back to the example of your pretend Nigerian, Italian, Russian, Vietnamese parents, even if your dad is 50-50, you could still get this much Nigerian DNA and this much Italian DNA. Same thing with your mum's Russian, Vietnamese side. So your ancestry breakdown actually ends up looking like this. This is also why siblings almost always have slightly different ancestry results, because they inherit different segments of DNA and possibly different percentage of ancestries. Just imagine this happening generation after generation. Random percentages of ancestries being passed down from parents to children throughout all the histories of human migration. Just based on the random recombination of DNA and how the cookies crumble.
As you could hear from this video, it's completely random. And don't get me wrong, certain companies like Ancestry.com are great for finding out your family tree history or long lost family who are still alive today, like if you are adopted, etc. But if you really want to know your real family history, then your best bet is to trace your genealogy. Obviously, if you don't have a logged paper trail or family that you can talk to, then it might be a little bit hard, but it will be the most accurate as it's by word of mouth in your family. And there's also official documented records of your family that you can look into, such as birth certificates, marriages, census records, etc.